brings together retail and brand leaders to share ideas, build relationships, and have meaningful conversations about the future of commerce. Before we jump into today's conversation, if you're going to be in New York on June 22nd, RTM Nexus is hosting their NYC Summer Retail Mixer. Our RTM Nexus co founder, Vanessa, will drop the registration link in the comments, and we'd love to see you there. So I'm so excited to facilitate today's conversation on the topic of experiences. What makes them great? What are some examples? How do you measure them? And with a special focus on the physical. Today with Paula and Austin, also two RTM Nexus Leadership Council members. Many times over the years, people have questioned the staying power of the physical store, and it has been proven that the best experiences are omnichannel. And the importance of the physical store has not waned and has become even more instrumental in facilitating both experience and experiences. Two different things that are both important. So, as we kick off today's conversation, I'll have Paula and Austin introduce themselves and say a quick word about why the topic is important to them. So, Paula, do you want to go first?
I would love to. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Paula Angelucci, and I am a career retail executive. I'm completely obsessed with retail. My background consists of some time at Macy's, Victoria's Secret, head of stores at Adore Me, Burlington, and most recently in the travel and resort space with WH Smith. So, really a great variety of retail background. This topic is so very, very, close to my heart because I feel like it is just so important, what experience that you're getting in the store. So when I was approached with this subject, it was a hearty yes to join this incredible panel with my two peers. So I'm super excited about that. And I just really think that there's nothing that replaces a great customer experience, and it's just so important. This is the year of the store. Customer experience is more important than ever, which you'll hear. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my panel peer, Austin. And I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but for all the sports fans out there, Austin and I are representing two of the hosting cities for the FIFA matches that are starting to take place, this week and beyond. So I'm representing Philadelphia. So any of my Philly friends out there, woo, go Philly. We are hosting starting Sunday, and we are so excited. And Austin, I'll let you share a little bit about yourself and where you're.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Paula. And yeah, really excited about the FIFA World Cup. I'm a huge sports
Austin,
fan.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
I can hear.
You
okay.
can hear him?
Huge sports
So weird.
fan. And obviously, we are beyond excited to be one of the host cities. So, nothing like some good country to country competition.
This is
Just wanted to quickly introduce myself. Like I said, Austin Banasco. I'm a marketing and digital exec. I've worked with a lot of amazing brands, bringing consumer experiences and activations to life globally. So I've had the privilege and the pleasure of working on some iconic brands like Canada Goose, L'Oreal, and most recently Haleon, which is a household consumer name that you might have heard of through Advil, Centrum, and Sensodyne, products that we manufacture and distribute around the globe. I'm very excited to be here to talk about all things consumer experience. I have a really good kind of angle on this, knowing that I've been on the agency side as well as the client side. So that has really sharpened my go to market strategies and how I approach it, being an owner operator as well as advising amazing brands to do incredible work in store. So, really passionate and excited to be here today.
Amazing. Well, I think we're both going to give some different perspectives and really share at the end of this, conversation some great insights on both sides of retail.
amazing. And thank you, Paula and Austin,
Mhm.
for helping me through this blender on a cooking show breaking moment. So let's keep going. So let's talk about store experiences and what makes for a good evergreen in-store experience. So if you guys can touch on activities, setup, event focus, even the difference between commercial versus brand building or how to incorporate both.
Okay. I'll kick off. So when, in my eyes, again, the bulk of my background has been in store. I definitely have some corporate background, but most of it is in store. So, when I think about what makes a great evergreen customer experience, some things are really just baked in. So when I think about my time at Victoria's Secret, hardly anyone is going to come in and we're not going to give you a personalized bra fitting. We're not, we're going to measure you. Those are really really baked in as part of the experience. There are some other, you certainly can get some personalized wardrobing appointments at certain places. Nordstrom does it, a lot of small boutiques do it. You can go to Sephora and get some beauty consultations. There's great concierge and clienteling programs that happen at some smaller kind of boutique type retailers. Um, Really could talk about building your own routine with some of our skincare, products and companies. Really thinking about, what is a curated experience feel like that some retailers can provide. Some stores have great lounge areas. Meredith and I were talking before we started about, if you go to Aritzia, and you make a purchase, you get this great coin. And if it's an Aritzia that has an in-store cafe, you can take that coin and get a drink. Recently, I had an opportunity to visit the largest Aritzia that I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot because I am a shopper with a 23-year-old shopper who was with me. And so we made a purchase and we had, got the coin and we could go, get a great beverage at that Aritzia. If you're in Soho, I'm sure many people have visited the Nespresso, the flagship Nespresso, that has some great in-store experiences. And if you go after a certain time, there's a speakeasy. We can do the certain knock and get like an espresso martini. Gymshark in Soho has some great activations that they're doing. So there's really, everyone has kind of really, put into their stores, they recognize that it's an opportunity to really build on a memorable customer experience and what they're building in naturally into that. Um, so Austin, what would you want to share to that?
Yeah, I love your examples, Paula, and I'm so happy that you touched on so many different industries that are probably applicable to a lot of the folks that are tuning in today. The one thing that if I take a step back before I go into like any examples,
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that you know great evergreen kind of in-store experiences really start with the people, right? Whether it's the
Hmm.
brand ambassadors, the client
Great.
service representatives, whatever you call the individuals working in your store, they're a
Hmm.
representation of your brand and what
Hmm.
you're trying to sell or service. And so educating them, making them really knowledgeable about your products or the services that you're operating with are such an incredibly important piece of the puzzle because they are usually the first thing that you see when you walk in to a store or even a pop-up, and they can define whether or not that experience is going to be favorable or
Hmm.
unfavorable in a split second. And so as I think about like brands that do have done like really good or best in class in-store experiences,
Hmm.
I'll play on a couple of ones that I've been involved in, and then touch on a few that I've personally seen as a shopper myself. So
Hmm.
at Canada Goose, during my time there, we had what we called the cold room. And the cold room was, call it a simulation of the extreme weather climates that
Hmm.
you would be having. So whether you're experiencing Canada Goose in the heart of the summer, in the middle of a mall, it was a cold room that you could actually enter into and experience the product in the environment that it was created for.
Hmm.
And it's a differentiator for the brand. Not
Hmm.
everyone could easily adopt that or do it. So
Hmm.
it was authentic, it was
It's
on
great.
brand, and it was built for purpose. And so
Hmm.
those are the kind of things that you have to figure out. What are you going to do to kind of differentiate yourself so
Hmm.
that you just don't bleed into the sea of nothingness?
Mhm.
And I also love, your example, Paula, on, Nespresso. I think having those flavor trials are
Mhm.
so critically important to the brand.
Mhm.
I'm an espresso user myself. I love
Mhm.
the coffee. I love the experience that you can get when you go into store. It just feels like you're taking a break, reconnecting with the brand,
Mhm.
and having a relaxing moment. I think
Let me
Dyson
ask you
does.
about that really quick. So does it as an espresso user, you can't buy coffee there. Does that bother you? Because, right, you can only taste it. Isn't that what I've heard?
Well, yeah, in some boutiques you can taste and you can
Yeah.
purchase, and others it's
Okay.
just more of, a simulation of, like, bringing that, all together. But
Mhm.
Nespresso users know that, they're in the boutique, they're
Mhm.
experiencing the product, and then they're usually going, online to, you know, refill, or they have a
Mhm.
subscription model, in place. So they really tailor to that omni, experience,
Mhm.
for their shoppers. And then, yeah, the other ones that I think are doing a great job, Dyson does a fantastic job
Mhm.
in store, live demonstrations. You get to
Mhm.
experience the product firsthand and just seeing how amazing their products are.
Mhm.
And then lastly, the Lego build stations, whether you're an adult or you're a kid, they're just connecting people in store in a meaningful, engaging way. And people are
Mhm.
talking about it, right? And that's how you
Mhm.
start to build that loyalty. It doesn't always have to be discounts or earn and burn mechanics. It can be first
Mhm.
access, early entry, curated, like, refreshments or
Mhm.
atmosphere, like you mentioned at Aritzia. It really just needs to be fit for purpose for your brand, and that's how you win.
Yeah, agree. I think, the more you can really tailor it and stand out, with your brand, the more you're going to really engage that customer and you're going to gain, a lifetime customer. And in many cases, it's going to be generational. My daughter drinks an espresso. So when we go there, we're both trying it. I have a Keurig, she's an espresso machine. And, I'm creating, introducing her to that experience. And she's, the next generation. And I'll be honest, kind of talking about that next generation, they expect something special and elevated in stores. They are very smart. This generation of consumers, they're super smart, and they expect more and they want more. And so they're doing their homework on the product, and they definitely want more.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And maybe, as Meredith is, working through, her technical,
Mhm.
things, one of the questions that I guess, I know she had for us was,
Mhm.
how do you look at pop-ups
Yep.
differently? And, like, what is that experience, and how do you bring that to life in a meaningful way that represents the brand and what it's trying to do through that kind of experience?
Amazing. Great. Yeah, I love that you brought this up. I mean, when you hear pop up, right? The first thing that pops into your mind, don't, excuse the pun, is really like an urgency, right? You think pop up. Oh my God, there's a pop up in Soho of Road Cosmetics. I got to get there. I have to try them. So it really creates an urgency. And really, you're going to have a very short compressed time impact that customer. They're coming. It's not going to be a full size store. It's going to be a pop up. But I love what you said about engaging associates working there. So you really have to think about it. Glossier has done them. Skims has done them really successfully. It's really about being, creating an immersive pop up that really, decides and helps to, look at the appetite of that product or brand with the customer, kind of test it, test the waters a little bit. Or maybe it's going to be, incremental volume. And so it's, you're going to, create a little pop-up somewhere where you're not usually going to be, but you want to, drive some incremental volume, so I look at pop-ups as really it's a snapshot in time for you to really gain some incremental customers, to create some urgency for your brand, to really, of course, we haven't even mentioned it yet, but the social aspect, right? I don't think you can go on TikTok and and research pop up, and you don't see a line somewhere, or what's the hottest pop up in Soho, what's the hottest pop up wherever. So it creates an urgency, it creates a kind of a great vibe, and a lot of social media. So you're having a small window of a time to really try to impact some customers, new customers, existing customers, and incremental customers. So that's really how I think of it. When I think pop up, I think urgency.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And, during my time at Canada Goose, we also used it as kind of a market validation tool, right?
Mhm,
Because again, given that we were a luxury brand, there was a
mhm,
high capex to create, a beautiful store that was
mhm,
curated to the environment that it was in the region that it was in, and we tailored
mhm,
all of that, which came at a large cost because it was a true representation of the
mhm,
brand and an
mhm,
expression of the brand. So things like that, we did pop-ups and say like Aspen during like ski season, figuring out like is there appetite for that consumer and the brand to coexist with one another? Like, how do we play into that
mhm,
cultural kind of time where people are skiing? There's that après
mhm,
ski. How do we fit in? Are the consumers receptive? And then does it actually validate the assumptions that we had in our business case?
mhm,
And in a lot of the instances, it did, and that allowed us to have those discussions with our CFO and the
mhm,
operations team to say this needs to be a permanent location because
mhm,
there's a market demand for
mhm,
it. We're set up for success, and we actually have that data validation in our
mhm.
back pocket to prove out that the model works.
Yep, that's great. And I think, I have been a part of a few pop-ups, in my career, and from you're kind of giving us some back end detail. I can tell you, kind of leading these pop-ups. I'm leading and coaching the teams to say, listen, these could be existing customers, new customers. What the most important thing is, we want them to be customers of our brand, and so how we're approaching them and how we're connecting with them. We need to be really the subject matter experts of our brand, of what the product can do, of availability, where we can get it if it's not available here. We have to be the experts. So when you're choosing people to really be a part and be in those locations where the pop-up is, you really have to pick the best of the best, the best in the industry. I think of pop up and I really think of exclusivity, right? Like, oh my gosh, and even if you get invited to an opening day of a pop-up. Oh my God, I got an invitation to opening day of X, Y, and Z. Or, we recently opened in Italy in Philadelphia. And so although it's King of Prussia, but Philadelphia is what it's called. But, it is a food retailer, but it's a retailer. And so people got to go and sample, and there was restaurants and certainly, great wine. And so there was a lot of buzz about that. I got invited to the opening day of this whatever. So, I think really there's a few pieces of it that you really need to hit a home run with to make them so successful. And, you know, people, process, product, and then, really all of the validation points that you spoke of are so important.
Absolutely. Do you want to switch gears and talk a little bit about omni-channel experiences?
I will for sure. I'll kind of kick it off. I think, my greatest really insight from an omni-channel perspective came with my time as head of stores at Adore Me. So Adore Me was a highly penetrated online. They used to like to say that they were an intimate tech company that sold lingerie. They were very tech focused, global company, and so they began to open stores, and, they had a super, super engaging website. They really pioneered the subscription box experience. We were disruptors in the intimate space. And so that was high. They were 10 years in that space before they started hired me, and I started opening stores for them. And so, really there was a lot of responsibility for us to ensure that we were curating an experience that they had on this incredible, engaging website, to make sure that we were mimicking that in store. Right. And that's not always easy. And so they did give us some great tech products and some, tech. things to put in our stores, devices, some programs, platforms. We were one of the first in market in the US to use Ubic. It's one of my favorite store operation platforms, and really, really helped us make that kind of seamless, operational from a operational sense in store to really mimic the great seamless experience people were having, on our website. So, I think again, when you think about a seamless omni-channel experience, your customer's very smart and she's on the website and she's getting great information and detail and all this product knowledge. And so she's coming into your store and she wants to, again, Adore Me was really also, we hung our hat on being so super size inclusive. So, not to bore everyone with broad details, but if you're a more of a niche size and you've done your research, you've gone online and you see that Adore Me has these sizes, when you go in a store, you really want to feel that great, flawless experience. And so, I think it really, you have to be aligned with what's happening online. You can't function as two separate entities. Really have to be aligned. The loyalty program, if it's in online, it has to be in store or it has to be equally as engaging in store. If you're doing a GWP online, we have to do a GWP in store. Are you going to maybe offer a bonus here or there if you're wherever you're shopping? Yes. But I think at the end of the day, you want to meet the customer where she is. So if she's in store, doing all you can to give a seamless and amazing elevated experience there. And if you're online, similar. So that's kind of how I look at it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're totally spot on. Like that line between, physical and digital
Mhm.
is it's almost gone at this point.
Yeah, it's very blurred.
The legacy retail companies that operate where, well, e-com is managed by another team and another P&L, and
Hmm.
we're trying to get as much conversion on site, and
Hmm.
we're not supporting the in-store. Those are the ones that are going to continue to struggle, because
Hmm.
the ones that are going to win look at that total experience
Hmm.
as just one consumer experience, right?
Hmm.
Consumer will probably bounce around in multiple places, often during the same shopping trip. Like, how often are you in a physical retail location
Hmm.
doing some research on the brand's website, online, in
Yeah,
aisle, right?
100%.
Happens all the
Yeah.
time, right?
Mhm.
And so, when I look at, offline to online, especially in luxury, it was
Mhm.
all about clienteling, getting as much
Yes.
information from the
Mhm.
consumer that you can when they're in store, and having those meaningful conversations. So
Mhm.
maybe they have a kid, or maybe they
Mhm.
have an upcoming vacation. So
Mhm.
trying to figure out, like, all those little tidbits of information about the consumer that you can
Mhm.
put into a CRM program and start
Mhm.
putting consumers on relevant journeys, whether it's email, SMS, or just paid retargeting, so that
Mhm.
you're continuing that conversation. And then when you look at that kind of online to offline, this is really where things like you said it early on, the partnership with FIFA that
Mhm.
we did with Haleon, that
Mhm.
was really a kind of a digital first play. So we had, paid media,
Mhm.
social, CRM, and we invested a lot in retail media, but it was really to start the conversation online. And then when consumers got in store, so your Walmarts or
Mhm.
CVS's of the world, they saw that full takeover in store and started to associate kind of that online journey that they've
Mhm.
already been engaging with into that in-store environment. And they were able to connect the dots, and it's becoming much more meaningful for brands to operate that way. And I think,
100%. Yeah, I
yeah,
think, yeah, I think if you have a great online, I mean, you're saying if you have great online, you have to duplicate that in store 100%. Like
yeah,
customers are expecting that,
yeah.
you know.
And then we have quick com that's creating that bridge
Mhm.
between the two in almost real time. So you think about it, even if you're a D2C brand, quick
Mhm.
com can act as that last mile delivery, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you actually need something, within 30 minutes to an hour from the store. And we have this all the time at Canada Goose, where
Mhm.
people just didn't want to wait the 1 or even 2 days
Mhm.
for shipping, which seems like that's
Yep.
not even that large of a window to receive an order. But sometimes you need it tonight for,
Yep.
that party you're going
Mhm.
to, or that function that you're attending, and you need
Mhm.
it right now. And then when you look at the fast moving consumer goods, it's about getting that convenience play you're sick, you're sitting on your couch, the last thing you want to do is have to go into store to pick up, some Advil or
Bring a
Buckley's, whatever you have. You,
beer.
you just want that delivered right then and there.
Right. I mean, a couple other things I wanted to share. When we talked about really again, like Adore Me was like a disruptor for the online part of it. So when we were building our stores, we were making sure, besides having a great in-store operation platform like Ubic, we were one of the first to pioneer the interactive um in the fitting rooms, the mirrors. So you would bring a bra into the fitting room, and up on the mirror would come up what you brought in, what sizes and colors it comes in, what would go with it. It would suggest 3 panties and a nightgown or whatever. And you could hit a button if you wanted the associate to bring it to you. I mean, we pioneered that in 2019. I mean, we were one of the first really cutting edge technology in our store. So it was really exciting. I kind of wanted to add that. And also, when we talk about omnichannel and really the customer experience, at NRF this year, I was at NRF. It was fabulous, just such an incredible experience. I'm a top retail voice for 2026. So I got VIP treatment.
Congrats.
Right? Again, we're talking about VIP treatment. We have front row seats for all the keynotes. But two of the things that keynotes, talked about again and again, our great retailers talked about personalization. So something that you brought up, I wanted to reinforce that, and a customer loyalty programs. I mean, listen, let's talk about some of the best and I don't know if you have any daughters or women or whatever, but you
Got
know,
two
the
daughters.
okay, well then I'm sure they're glued to the Ulta app, right? I'm sure they love Ulta. I don't know how old they are, but Ulta has one of the best loyalty programs out there. To your point, you're talking about how people wanted their jacket, immediately. You go into Ulta, you can collect your points, you have a 10% off coupon. Listen, there isn't any time I go in Ulta and I'm like, let me pull up my app. My daughter and I are both like, okay, how many points do you have? How many? I mean, we're doing that. So, like that is a loyalty personalization program that is winning. They are, omni-channel. You go in their stores, they're super helpful. I was doing research on them earlier this year. They're really going after um, the wellness industry. And so many of them are building out these little like 500 square foot wellness kind of corners in their store because they already know that they're the place we go for cosmetics or makeup, but since we trust them, they want to be the place we come to for our wellness products. I thought it was like genius,
Yeah.
really cool. The one other thing too I wanted to share, because now you really have me about all these great in-store customer experiences. I heard the head of Dick's Sporting Goods speak at NRF. He was amazing, and he was talking about Dick's House of Sports. And that is really like the thing coming to the future. Like these are the most engaging experience stores that are going to be. And he was talking about how they came up with that concept. And he said, I sat down with all of my powers that be and I said, listen, I want us to come up with a store concept that if it opened up across the street from a Dick's Sporting Goods, it would put us out of business. And that's how they come up with House of Sports. Is that so
Amazing.
interesting?
That's amazing.
Right? Yeah, totally amazing. Well, we are, believe it or not, almost out of time. So I didn't know if you wanted to wrap up with one last thought, and I will wrap up with one last thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I wanted to leave everyone, because it's probably top of mind, is you creating all these amazing in-store
Mhm,
experiences. Like, how are you measuring or evaluating those KPIs? And the one thing that I'll leave everyone with is there's not one size fits all for you need to measure this KPI from a qualitative perspective and this one from a quant. It really will depend on what's the business outcome that you're striving towards. So set that as that goal and figure out what your KPIs are. Maybe it's conversion rate. Maybe dwell time is very important for your
mhm,
brand during a pop-up experience. Figure out what KPI is meaningful for you that is going to actually evaluate what the experience you're trying to give to your consumer. And the one thing that I will say is test, test, and test,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Everyone can have intuition on what's going to work and what won't work, but you know, have a holdout group, do some sort of A/B testing, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. Just try to evaluate in a controlled environment.
Mhm.
Does this work? How can we optimize and then scale and repeat?
All right, awesome. I'm going to try to top that. I don't know if I can, but I won't top it. I'll just compliment it. How's that? And
Sounds
I'll
good.
give the ultimate kind of compliment part to your thought. So I would say to you, get in the stores. You know, you are gonna. The magic happens in the stores. Get out and experience the stores. I'm happy to take anyone in any city on a curated tour. Please DM me. It's something from the bottom of my heart I love. We can find great curated places with great technology, great AI, some beautiful special experiences. Reach out to me. I'm happy to tour anyone through any city with some great retail examples. And Austin, you've been a great partner. I wish Canada all great luck. You know, good luck really hosting these great games. And I know all of my Philly people out there, we're super excited to host as well. And thank you to RTM Nexus. Can't wait to attend their event in 2 weeks. Great partners. I'm so grateful to have been asked, and I hope everyone has a fabulous week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks everyone for attending today. It's been a great time.
Take
Enjoy the rest
care.
of the week.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.